guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm super excited because I was invited to participate in a collab. It's called Getting Ready for Fall, and it's hosted by Janny and Diane over at Deco Easy. And there's going to be a whole list of people that are participating in this collab. So don't forget to check out my description box below for the playlist. So this is to inspire you to get ready for fall. We were able to choose from a couple different things, and I decided to do a craft for you today. So would you like to see what I made? Then let's get started. For today's craft, you'll need some burlap ribbon, mine is wired, a scrap of lace or trim of your choice, an old canning jar or a repurposed jar. I had a little jar lid there to put my paint in. The colors I used for the craft were Princess Pink, Pumpkin Orange, Warm Buff, and Black, and I also used white, which I didn't show until later. I had my inspiration picture that I found on Pinterest, so here's what we'll be making this adorable scarecrow. You will also need a pencil, various paintbrushes, sewing scissors, wire cutters, regular scissors, and a couple buttons that you like for the eyes. One flower of your choice, some raffia, and your glue gun. Before I started, I made sure my jar was nice and sparkling clean and dry. Here I'm starting with the warm buff that I chose. And I want to warn you that painting on glass, you have to be kind of careful. You don't want to overpaint. In other words, put it on and don't keep brushing over the same area. It will peel off if you do that. So I had to put 3 coats on. There is probably a special paint for painting on glass, but I just used regular craft paint. So I was patient and put on the 3 different coats, and I did let it dry really well between each coat. You can't rush this process. You'll notice I'm not painting the neck of the jar because that will be covered, but I did decide to paint the bottom of the jar, but that's a personal preference. My jar's all painted and dry after the 3 coats. Here's what it looks like. Here I'm just sizing up how much of the wired burlap ribbon I'll need, and then I cut that. Next, I fit the ribbon around the jar, and I'm just kind of loosely fitting it, not super tight, and then I put some glue along there, and I did overlap that a bit so that it made it easier to work with. So at this point, I didn't actually glue the burlap to the jar yet. I was just trying to get a feel for how it was all going to work together. So I was fiddling with the raffia here and trying to see how I might make it look and how I might attach it. So while I'm fiddling with that, I wanted to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Carol, and I make videos about thrifting and decor and decorating. I also do videos, obviously, about crafting, and I love to organize. So if this sounds good to you and you're enjoying my content, I would appreciate it so much if you would subscribe to my channel. And if you hit the bell and mark all notifications, you'll get a notification every time I upload a new video. At this point, I had fiddled around enough and I decided I had a plan on how I was going to proceed. And so I decided to pick out my buttons. I did pick 2 matching buttons, and I went ahead and hot glued them right onto the jar. I did look at my Pinterest picture so I could decide where I wanted them, how far down on the jar. And just make sure you secure them with a good amount of glue and push them on tightly. Here's a little look at how our scarecrow's coming along. Next, I got my orange paint ready, and I penciled on a triangle for his nose, and then I took a very fine paintbrush and painted that on. I did paint on 2 coats. After letting the first coat dry, I put the second coat on. Next, I got a piece of scrap paper here and one of those round sponge applicators from the Dollar Tree, I believe. And I mixed up a little bit of pink and white. I didn't want it really pink. I kind of wanted it subdued. And then I took the applicator brush and practiced on my scrap paper. And then when I saw that it was actually going to make a pretty nice circle, I went ahead and applied that, making a little blush on the cheeks of the scarecrow. At this point, I decided I really wasn't happy with the way it looked, so I took a paper towel and I kind of blotted it and made it even more subdued. And I really liked that effect that I got by doing that. Here's how he's looking so far. At this point, I decided I didn't need to pencil in the mouth, and I just started painting with black paint and a fine black paintbrush. If you don't want to wing it like I did, you can surely pencil it in and then paint over it. And if you do want to wing it, just keep looking at your inspiration picture and follow along with how it looks. At this point, I decided the burlap was not wide enough and it just didn't look quite right. So I decided to add another piece, and then I was going to hide the seam with the lace trim. So here I'm very awkwardly trying to get this piece to just right. Of course, you could avoid this problem by just having a wider piece of burlap to start with, but I like to use what I have on hand and make it work if I can. So I persevered and eventually got it just the way I wanted it. Here I am starting to decide how that raffia is actually going to get attached. I folded the raffia several times over, as you'll see, and maybe into fourths, and then I just put little beads of glue along and kept gluing on a little bit of raffia at a time. This was actually the hardest part of the craft, and it was kind of awkward, and I just had to keep kind of trying different things, but eventually I got all the raffia on that I wanted, and I just kept checking it with a little piece of burlap to make sure it was looking right, and kind of trimming and giving a little haircut here and there. You do want to be sure and be really careful that you don't burn your fingers. I did have a piece of a wood dowel or a stick that I used to press it down into the hot glue, and I just kept working my way around until I was happy with the result. So at this point it looks like a hot mess, but I did decide I wanted to put some thin twine around to just kind of secure the scarecrow's hair. So I just put it around and then tied it in a knot in the back, which will be hidden by the hat. Okay, let's try that hat on and see what we've got. At this point I started trimming the hair and just giving it a little haircut. Just kind of fussing with it here and there. The raffia was not open because I had folded it, so I was cutting it open. After the haircut was complete, I just kind of took my hands and bent the raffia out a little bit because it was sticking straight up, so I wanted it to look more natural. This view is very awkward and it's not going to look like that when it's done, so don't worry. Next, I'm going to glue on my lace trim. So I just put that around the hat and hide that seam, and then glue it down. I decided I needed to scrunch that hat in a little bit here, so it worked out cool that it had that wire in the burlap. I'm ready to glue on my sunflower. I just held it up to decide where I wanted to put it, kind of stuck it through the burlap, and then attached it with some glue. Finally, at this point, I am actually gluing the hat on to secure it to the scarecrow. The very last thing I did was stick a little bit of hot glue on the back of a couple of the petals of the sunflower to attach it to the burlap to make it lay right. What do you think? He's all done. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Is this something that you would try to make? And if so, would you do anything different? Do you have any tips for me? Thanks, Janny and Diane, for hosting this collab. I had a lot of fun. Don't forget to check out the playlist and all the other channels that participated. Go and show them some love. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I'll link that below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks, Janny and Diane, for hosting this awesome challenge. It was a great idea, and I really participated.